The scent of basil and garlic always takes me back to that place. Liella Vita, our favorite Italian restaurant, the place where Olivia and I celebrated our anniversaries, birthdays, even just random Tuesdays. It was where I first told her I loved her. A clumsy declaration over a shared plate of spaghetti carbonara. Now, it's just a monument to her betrayal, a constant reminder of how easily she shattered everything we had built. It started subtly, a shift in her behavior that I initially chalked up to stress. We'd been married for 7 years, and I knew that life had its ebbs and flows. Her laughter didn't quite reach her eyes anymore. Her touch grew less frequent, and she was spending more time on her phone, her smile reserved for the bright screen. I tried talking to her, asked if everything was okay, but she always brushed it off with a tired sigh, a non-committal, "I'm fine, just tired." I should have known then, should have seen the signs for what they were. But I was too trusting, too willing to believe in the woman I thought I knew, the woman I loved. It was only when I started noticing the same name popping up on her phone, Jackson, that the sickening feeling in my gut began to take hold. I didn't recognize the name, but something about it made me feel uneasy. One Friday night, Olivia announced she was going out with the girls, a routine occurrence that I usually didn't question. This time, though, something felt off. I decided to follow her, a decision born out of a mixture of suspicion and a desperate hope that I was wrong. I parked a safe distance from Liella Vita, watching as Olivia emerged from her car. My heart sank as I saw a man waiting for her near the entrance, his arm immediately wrapping around her waist. It was him, Jackson, the name that had been haunting me. I watched them laughing, their faces close together, and a wave of nausea washed over me. This wasn't just an innocent outing. This was an affair happening in the place that held so many of my cherished memories. That night, I didn't confront her. I went home and sat in the dark, the silence of our house amplifying my pain. I watched the news, but I didn't see anything. The words blurred on the screen. I couldn't even cry, just this empty ache where my heart used to be. I decided to take the weekend off from work. In some strange way, I felt like a stranger in my own home and wanted to create a space to just process what I had discovered. I spent the next few days observing her, watching the subtle lies she spun like a spider's web. I listened to the half-truths she told me about her girls' nights and the excuses she gave for her increasingly frequent absences. All the while, I was formulating a plan. I didn't want a messy confrontation or a shouting match. I wanted something more calculated, more impactful. My revenge started the following Monday. I booked a table at Liella Vita for that Wednesday evening, the same day Olivia had her supposed book club meeting. I even requested our favorite table, the one by the window. The staff knew me, recognized me as the loyal patron who always came with his wife. They welcomed me warmly, oblivious to the storm brewing beneath my polite smile. I arrived early, a few minutes before my reservation, and asked to speak with the head waiter, Marco. He was an older gentleman, a man I had grown to respect over the years. I explained the situation, the betrayal, the pain. He listened patiently, his expression growing more somber as I spoke. When I was finished, he nodded, his eyes filled with understanding. "I will help you, my friend," he said, his voice quiet but firm. My plan hinged on Olivia's predictability. She and Jackson always sat at the same table, the one tucked away in the corner, their secret rendezvous point. And just as I suspected, they arrived, their faces alight with the thrill of their illicit affair. Olivia scanned the room, her eyes widening slightly when she saw me sitting at our usual table. She feigned surprise, her acting skills laughably bad. I waved at her, a friendly gesture that masked the turmoil within. She walked over, her lover trailing behind her, a smug look on his face. He was taller than me, with a muscular build that he seemed to flaunt. I forced a smile, a cold, bitter expression that I hoped conveyed nothing of my true intentions. "Well, isn't this a surprise?" Olivia said, her voice a little too high-pitched. "What are you doing here?" "Just enjoying a solo dinner," I said, my tone casual. "It's my day off. Thought I would treat myself." Jackson looked at me, his eyes filled with arrogance. "Is that right?" he sneered. "Maybe you should have stayed home." I didn't respond to his taunt, instead turning my attention to Marco, who had appeared at our table. "I'll have the usual, Marco," I said. "And also, please bring us a bottle of the Amarone." Marco nodded, a slight smirk playing on his lips. I watched as he went to get the wine. As he turned away, he winked at me. I knew then the plan was set in motion. Marco opened the bottle and poured us a glass, then stepped away to let us have some time. Olivia looked very confused, but Jackson was growing increasingly impatient. "Look, this is awkward. I'll be honest. This is our special table," said Jackson, his face starting to get red with impatience. I was in no mood to listen to this man's lies. Olivia was looking down at the table and wouldn't meet my eyes. I could see the embarrassment creeping onto her face, not a tinge of remorse for her actions. "So, this is your special table?" I asked. I couldn't help but smile a little, as I had been planning this for days. "I never knew that." Jackson, now increasingly agitated, was tapping his fingers on the table. I could tell his patience was running out. "Look," he said, his voice now dripping with aggression. "Can you just leave? This is between Olivia and me. It's none of your business." I leaned back in my chair, my eyes never leaving his face. "Actually, Jackson," I said, my voice calm and measured, "it's very much my business. See, you've been sleeping with my wife." The color drained from Jackson's face. Olivia's hand flew to her mouth, a look of terror on her face. The restaurant had fallen silent, the other patrons watching us with a mixture of shock and curiosity. "That's a lie," Jackson sputtered, his voice trembling. "Oh, is it?" I said, reaching into my jacket pocket and pulling out my phone. I unlocked it, then showed him a series of photos. Pictures of him and Olivia kissing, holding hands, getting into his car. I had been following them, documenting their every move. Jackson's eyes widened in disbelief. He was scrambling to find a response, but the photos were undeniable, irrefutable. I could see the fear in his eyes, the realization that his carefully constructed secret life was about to come crashing down around him. Before he could form a coherent thought, I got out of my chair and walked around the table to where he sat. I took the half-empty glass of wine off the table and threw it in his face. The red wine splattered on his face and all over his shirt. I was glad to see his surprise as he gasped for air. I had been waiting for this for a long time. I watched as he wiped his face with his napkin, his eyes full of venom. Before he could say a word, I punched him in the face. He fell backward in his chair, then onto the ground. The other diners gasped in horror as I straddled the man I now hated with every fiber of my being. I unleashed all my anger on him, blow after blow, watching him bleed and beg for mercy. Marco and another waiter rushed forward to pull me away, their eyes wide with concern, but I brushed them off and stood above Jackson, who was now cowering on the ground. "That's for betraying me," I said, my voice low and dangerous. "That's for ruining my marriage. And this," I bent down and spat on his face, "is for being a pathetic excuse for a man." I walked away, leaving Jackson on the floor, bleeding and humiliated. Olivia was a sobbing mess, her face pale and drawn. The entire restaurant was silent, all eyes on me. But I didn't care. I had exposed them, stripped them of their lies, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a sense of satisfaction. I turned to Olivia. "It's over," I said, my voice flat and devoid of emotion. "Don't ever contact me again." I walked out, leaving behind the ruins of what was once my life. The aftermath was chaotic, like a bomb had gone off. Jackson lost his job, his social circle shunned him, and his reputation was in tatters. Olivia, alone and ostracized, tried to contact me, begging for forgiveness. But I ignored her. I couldn't forgive her, not after everything she had done. I moved out, started fresh. I had to learn how to navigate life as a single person, to find the man I was before I met Olivia, before I had ever heard of Liela Vita. I still see a therapist, work through my anger and sadness. It's a long road, but for the first time since discovering Olivia's betrayal, I was finding some semblance of peace. Liela Vita, once a symbol of love and happiness, is now a constant reminder of betrayal, deceit, and the day I took back my life. I haven't been back, and I doubt I ever will. The taste of the food, the scent of the herbs, it will always be poisoned by my experience. I learned a hard lesson that day, the kind that leaves scars. But these scars, while painful, are a constant reminder of my strength, my ability to survive, and my promise to never again let someone take me for a fool.